All right, I just want to say hello to everyone. My name is Josh. I'm one of the pastors here with HMCC. I'm so glad you all decided to come out to New Encounter. Y'all survived the rain okay? Yeah, sort of. Right across the street from where I was staying last night, I saw a downed electric wire. I've never seen that before in my life. I have a video if you want to see it later. I didn't know this. They spark green. It's really weird. I don't know why they spark green and like fire was like sparking and everything. I hope you never see one in person, but if you do take a video, you will impress everyone around you for a good 3 minutes, and then they'll never care about that ever again. But we're so glad you're here. I just wanted to share a few words just to introduce our group and who we are to all of you. We are, again, like we've been saying, Harvest Mission Community Church. We've been here since 1996. I know that's older than some of us in the room, and so that is a weird thought to express. But we've been here, and we started here in 96 specifically with the hope and the intention that we believe in God, we believe in Jesus Christ, and we believe that He loves the students here in Ann Arbor. That's why we decided to start here. That's why we formed here. That's why we wanted to be here. And we believe that His heart for the students here, His heart for the University of Michigan here is reason enough for us to be here as well and want to share that love with other people. And so that's why we're here. And honestly, our hope is that you will join us. There are a lot of groups on campus, a lot of different groups that do different things. They're building things or trying out things or whatever else. There's a lot of even Christian groups on campus. If you want to check out some others, there's some wonderful groups that are doing things. But what I wanted to do tonight is to share with you, yes, we want you to join us, but we want to let you know of why we're here. What actually compels us. And so I just want to share a brief, more of an encouragement than anything else, for you to understand who we are, what it is that drives us, what it is that causes us to want to be here, causes us to want to share with the students on campus. And so if you would, if you have Bibles, if you're familiar with it, I don't know if you're where you are in your walks of faith, if you're exploring things, or you just came because someone invited you and you heard there was going to be, I don't know, games and stuff afterwards. We're so glad you're here. Don't worry about it if you don't have one. If you do have one, if you want to turn to John chapter 4, I just want to share a brief word with us. And we call this night New Encounter. Specifically because the more important thing for us, as much as you're getting a chance to know some people around you, hopefully you'll make some good friends. Turn to the person next to you and say, I hope you make friends. Right, friends are important. They're a huge part of the college experience, and I hope you get to meet lifelong friends who maybe you'll stand. Who knows? Maybe the person you're sitting next to is going to stand with you at your future wedding. You never know. If you look at the person next to you and say, maybe not, that's okay too. But as much as we would hope and trust and believe that you will get to know some wonderful people around you and get to build those relationships and friendships down the line, we call these gatherings our encounter gatherings because we believe what's most important is that when God encounters someone, that's when some really amazing things happen. And so what we want to do today, what I want to do today is just share a brief passage with us. If you've grown up in the church, you may know this passage, but John chapter 4, where Jesus specifically encounters one person. And from there, I think there's a lot about our heart, our desire to be here. And if you want to join us, I want you to know that this is what we're about. This is what we hope that you get to experience if you do decide to check us out. And so John chapter 4, we'll read a chunk of it first. We'll talk about it a little bit, and then we'll deal with some stuff afterwards. But John chapter 4, verses 7 through 18, you can read it on your own, or you can just hear me read it as well for us. But it says this. A woman from Samaria came to draw water. Jesus said to her, give me a drink, for his disciples had gone away into the city to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, how is it that you, a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a woman of Samaria? For Jews had no dealings with Samaritans. Jesus answered her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. The woman said to him, sir, you have nothing to draw water with, and the well is deep. Where do you get that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob? He gave us this well and drank from it himself, as did his sons and his livestock. Jesus said to her, everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks of the water that I will give him will never be thirsty again. The water that I will give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life. The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I will not be thirsty or have to come here to draw water." Jesus said to her, "Go, call your husband and come here." The woman answered him, "I have no husband." Jesus said to her, "You are right in saying, 'I have no husband,' for you have had 5 husbands, and the one you now have is not your husband. What you have said is true." We'll stop there. As we look at this, I want to first unpack just some things about this character in this narrative that the Bible is telling about, this incident that happened with Jesus meeting this woman. There's a few things I want to unpack about this woman before I want to share our heart for us, why we're here, what we hope that you would get to experience as well. And the first thing that I want to unpack is the woman and her personal need. The woman and her personal need. If you're familiar with this time and this culture, you know that first of all, it's very hot where they are, very deserty and all those things. Water is hard to come by. They have to get wells to do all that. And so, one, she has this need for water, but some of the things that you'll notice actually show that she has a different kind of personal need going on in her life. She's drawing it when no one else is there. It's kind of midday. It's the hottest time of the season. It's the hottest time of the day. And so where most people would gather water in the early morning or late at night when it's cooler and it's more manageable, she actually goes by herself and goes to get this water in the middle of the day, which really highlights this idea of shame in this woman's life. That this woman, she's going there by herself. And you see, actually, there's an unpacking of some of the reasons for it. She's known to be a woman who's had a lot of husbands. The guy she's with now isn't her husband. Not sure what that relationship is or how it's defined. It's not clear exactly what happened to each of the husbands. Did some of them die? Did she get divorced from some of them? It's not clear, but back in this day, the people of the time, if you had more than 3, they're going to the person next to you and say, more than 3. More than 3. For some reason, 3 was a magic number. But if you had more than 3 spouses, they would look down on you. I don't know if it's this thing of like, man, what's wrong with her? Or like maybe she killed we don't know. We can only speculate as to why. But we do know the cultural standard of the day was, hey, if you have more than 3, there must be something wrong, whether you cheated or not or whatever else. We can only speculate. But we know that society would have looked down on her because of her status, because of her relationship history, because of all of that. It's not a good look. And so that's part of why she has to come here by herself. And the thing that she's trying to do, because she is looked down upon, because she has this sense of societal and cultural shame, she's trying to cope by herself and trying to manage and live her life. She's on her own. She's having to do it on her own. Chances are, at this time, if you gather water, you try to gather water with people. I don't know if it's just a talk or I don't know. You can like pull the buckets 2 at a time or something like that. But she's having to cope by herself, given her life circumstances. That she's in this, she's feeling the shame. She knows the reputation that she has with the people around her, and she shows up to this well by herself because that's her way of dealing with it. That's her way of saying, I have to take care of myself. If everyone else is only going to look down on me, then I need to take care of myself on my own. And so this woman comes to this well and by chance gets to meet Jesus and have this great interaction, but this is what she's walking in with. I am dealing with shame. I have to deal with it by myself, and so I'm going to show up this well where no one else would show up, and then we'll see Jesus show up on the scene. But I want to ask us, before we look at the rest of it and how Jesus interacts with her, what needs or wants are some of us coming in with, especially as we're entering into college? I don't want to share how long ago my freshman year was. There are reasons for that. All I will say is I had significantly less gray hair on my head and on my beard, but I shaved this morning, so that doesn't show up. But I remember coming into college, I had a chance to go to University of Michigan. I didn't because just financially I couldn't afford to, and so I went somewhere with a lot of financial aid and scholarships and things. But for me, I had moved around so much in my junior high and high school years. I moved from the Chicago area to Seattle to New Jersey. Anyone from Jersey? Okay, let me specify. Anyone from Central Jersey? Where? East Brunswick, South Brunswick. Marlboro, New Jersey. If you're from Central Jersey, can I ask you? Sorry, Matt. Is there anything to do there? No. Yeah. Victor, is there anything to do in Central Jersey?
Go to New York City.
There you go. That is. Right? If you're from North Jersey, I know there's a lot of great places to eat and stuff. I grew up in South Brunswick, New Jersey in high school, nothing to do there. But for me, the impact wasn't as much boredom as it was I had missed being able to call a place home. And for me, moving around, I mean, yes, I was with my family. I love my family. Family is a place where I find home. But I had moved and lost so many friends over the years that I wanted to go to a place where I could feel like, oh, this is a place where I belong. And actually, that's why I ended up going to the school that I did, because it's in the Chicago suburbs. I grew up there. I still had friends there, and I was hoping to find and rediscover that as I was entering into college. For some of us, and for me, right, there's this desire to find the one, right? Not the one, the residential, condos, apartments up north, right? The one. My mom sent me to college saying, hey, I have this family friend who has this daughter who came in second place in Miss Korea Chicago. Wow. I'm Korean, by the way.
Not as good as Erica.
Okay. By the way, this is my wife, Erica. She's in the front here. And so I went there. I eventually met her once. She's, all I'm saying is she's not as good as Erica. For some of us, we have these relational needs. We have these, maybe it's for significant others, maybe it's for friends. We have this desire to say, hey, I want to be in a new place to build these new relationships. Maybe you've been burned in the past or whatever else, but you want to find those people to connect with, to be with. For some of us, maybe, and this was for me as well, I was trying to figure out what I want to major in, what was my purpose in life, what did I want to do. I eventually majored in electrical engineering. Any electrical double E's? Yes, all 5 of us, all right. I did digital signal processing and systems, all right? That was my focus in EE. Obviously, I still do that today. I'm kidding. But for me, I was thinking about purpose. What should I be doing with my life? And for some of us, maybe we're hoping that college will be the place where we discover that for themselves. I became an EE because I hated bio and chem. Right? That's why I'm like, I love math and science. I hate these things, either EE or MECE. I took EE first, so I stuck with that. That's what I found. But maybe some of us are coming in and hoping to discover that over these next 4 years, maybe 5, maybe 6, but over these next number of years, hopefully we're finding that. Maybe for some of us, actually, the needs that we have are actually a little bit more maybe mental or emotional. Maybe some of us are actually excited to be here for college, to meet people, but actually we have also this other side of us that's like really anxious about Monday. Classes start on Monday, right? Yeah. Some of us may be anxious about Monday. For me, I wasn't anxious about the first day of school. I did pretty well in high school, but after that first week, my anxiety skyrocketed. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing anymore. Midterms and tests and assignments, and so this anxiety grew. Maybe for some of us, our needs are more in that realm. Maybe for others of us, actually, we have needs that are related with this woman. Maybe we actually have the sense of shame that we're coming in with, and we're actually hopeful for college because we can say, hey, this is a chance for me to reinvent myself. I can change how I look. I can change how I act. I can change what people call me if they want to. I don't want to be Josh anymore. I don't want to be Joshua. We might have these ideas or this ambition of like, hey, this is a place where I can start over, where people don't know who I've been or what I've done. Or maybe some of us are actually struggling because we have this tendency in our lives to cope by ourselves. And that as we're looking over the next 4 years, we're thinking, man, I just have to put my head down, do what I have to do. But for some of us, we've suffered under that for so long that all it's ended up for us is in being in isolation, being starved for relationship, and for us building that sense of anxiety or fears. I want to ask us, what are the wants or needs that we're coming into our undergrad years with? For this woman, she had her needs. She had her personal needs. She had her life situation going on. She found a way to deal with it, yes, but that's not the life that anyone ought to live. And so we see her interacting with Jesus, and we'll continue on just to explore a few more things. If you would read with me 4 verse 19 through 26. It says this. The woman said to him, "Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you say that in Jerusalem is the place where people ought to worship." Jesus said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem will you worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we know, for salvation is from the Jews. But the hour is coming and is now here when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father is seeking such people to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth. The woman said to him, I know that Messiah is coming, he who is called Christ. When he comes, he will tell us all things. Jesus said to her, I who speak to you am he. There's one other aspect to this woman's story, to this woman's narrative that needs to be unpacked. And there's this idea that this woman has what she thought she knew. This woman had grown up in a system, in a culture, an environment, with a family, and all of these things. She grew up and she had this set of things of what she thought she knew. Right? She was a Samaritan woman. Right? Jesus came from the Jewish people, and so she's identifying him as a Jew and interacting with him like that. And you see some awkwardness at the beginning, right? If you go back to verse 8, it's like, how is it that you, a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a woman of Samaria? There's this idea of tension, even culturally, in between the two. But this woman, she thought she knew that they shouldn't interact, and so why is this guy talking to me? But you see, actually, there's more of her beliefs that start coming out, and it's not super important that you memorize anything like this or not, but she's pointing to this mountain, Mount Gerizim, where for her people in the past, this was a place where blessings were pronounced heavily on the people that were gathered. This was a place where blessing was known to come from. And so why not worship God on this mountain? If this is a place where we've been blessed before, we should stay there and keep worshiping there. And then she goes, hey, you're Jewish, you have your city, you have Jerusalem, you have the temple, you have all of these things. Why? I know we disagree. And so why are we talking? Why are we associating? Why are we doing all these things? But she's also starting to come around and say, hey, maybe this guy has something to offer, even with what I thought I knew. And for us, I want to ask, is there something that we think we know? College is a great opportunity to start asking some of life's big questions. Not just who I'm going to marry or what my major is going to be, but for some of us in this room, I'm guessing we have questions bigger than that. What is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of existing at all? Why am I here? Not purpose for vocation, not purpose for work or anything like that, but why do I exist at all? Is there meaning? Is there something driving behind all of that? Is there meaning to the universe? Is there meaning behind the chaos and the destruction that we see in the world? Is there any hope that we can have, even as we see some things falling down around us? And so for some of us, I want to ask you, are you having those big questions? Do you have some of the bigger life questions that you may be asking? You might have grown up for years with, and you just never knew how to find answers. You go on Google, and actually now you can go on ChatGPT and ask him, what is the meaning of life? And get an answer. And you might end up more confused asking questions out of robots than anything else. I don't know if robots can ever tell you what the meaning of life is, but are some of us walking in with those questions? My guess is as well, there's some of us in this room that haven't started asking those questions yet, but you're going to. See, because like this woman, I grew up in faith. And she had the Samaritan people, she had this Mount Gerizim and all those things. I grew up in faith. I grew up in the church. My dad was a pastor. I had to grow up in the church. And by growing up in the church, I don't mean I went every Sunday. I meant every Sunday, every Wednesday, every Friday, every Saturday morning, I lived there. I slept over the church even when no one else would, right? It got weird and super dark and creepy, but sometimes I would be there. I literally grew up in the church. And so when I grew up in that, I knew that there were things that I believed, there were things that I held on to, but I also realized, man, I don't know if this is going to hold up. Once I got into college and I started meeting people who thought differently, who believed differently, who had different questions of what I believed. And for me, like this woman, I grew up with it, I was stable in it, but when confronted with something else, I started to question, God, what is it that you really are? Who is it that you really are? Are you really real? Are you really good? Jesus, were you real? And did you do the things that I thought and I believe that you said you did? For some of us, I'm wondering if we come in with this set of things that we think we know. And see, because the most important thing is not this woman in this story. But this woman had this life, this woman had this history, this woman had all of this going on, and what happens? She encounters Jesus. See, what happens here is so deeply profound. One is that Jesus actually meets the woman. I don't have time to get into it, but if you look at the geography, there's no choice for him to go down there. He's deliberately going to this place to actually meet with this woman. And so as he's meeting with her, you see all of these cultural and societal norms and barriers that shouldn't be crossed. Jesus is breaking them, and he's saying, hey, no, I want to meet this person. I want to meet this woman. I'm a man, she's a woman. We shouldn't be interacting in a certain way. She's a Samaritan. I'm from the Jewish background. We shouldn't be interacting in a certain way. But Jesus goes through all of that and says, no, I want to meet this woman. I want to talk to her. I want her to know some truth. I want her I want to have this conversation with her so that I can show that actually I'm the only one that can meet her greatest need. See, she doesn't get the water. I don't know if she eventually gets water and gets, all of that, but we see that Jesus met the woman. We see that Jesus met her greatest need. And that greatest need is not water. Water is important. Look at the person next to you and say, water is important. I don't know, what is it, 64 ounces a day? Is that something like that? Is that a gallon? I don't know math anymore. Whatever, 64, anyways, 8 cups, whatever, all right? All those things. But Jesus meets her greatest need, and her greatest need is not water. Her greatest need is not a significant other. Her greatest need is not even status in the community. As important as these things are, as important as it is to address the shame, and Jesus goes across that to say, hey, even in your quote-unquote shameful state, I want to be there with you. I want to talk to you. I want to let you know that you are someone. But the greatest need, actually, more than any of this, more than the religious background, all of this, more than any of that, is the greatest need to know Jesus. See, because he's saying all these things, he's saying, all right, you worship there, we worship there. And Jesus is saying, no, it's not the Jews are right and the Samaritans are wrong. It's not saying the Samaritans are right and the Jewish people it's wrong. It's saying Jesus is here, I am here, and I'm going to break all of that. What you think you know about how to worship and all those things, I've come in with a totally different way. And saying, this is the way that you ought to live. This is what you should pursue. And the way is not this method or religious set of things to do. It is to follow and to know the person of Jesus Christ. That's what he's showing. And you see all these things. You see in the story that Jesus is revealed to be a revealer of truth. Right? In all of this conversation, the big thing is truth. Truth about understanding this woman. Truth about knowing her background, even before she shares anything. He is the revealer of truth. But in John 10:10, he's talking for himself. He gives such a bigger picture than that. He's not only a revealer of truth, but he says in John 10:10, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. For us who know Jesus, for us who have followed Jesus, hopefully we've gotten this sense that Jesus has come to bring life. And what do we see here? As he's interacting with her, as he's revealing these truths to her, we see that actually this woman's life was transformed. That this woman goes from being in the state of shame, this state of, I don't want to associate with people, I don't want to talk to people, they're going to look down on me, they're going to think less of me, they're going to judge me as soon as I walk out the door. She goes from that state to actually running to go. I know we didn't read it and it won't be on the screen, but it shows in 2 verses later, verse 28. So the woman left her water jar and went away into town and said to the people, come, see a man who told me that I ever did. Can this be the Christ? She's found something so profound, so amazing, so awesome that she drops what she was doing, and she goes to the people that were judging her. She goes to the people that were looking down on her, and she says, hey, I found this. I think this might be the guy. She goes from being the shameful woman to being shameless and saying, hey, I think everyone should try and get to meet this guy too. This woman who was so isolated, who was trying to stay away from people, now she goes and tells anyone who will listen, hey, I think I found this promised one. This promised one who is going to save the world, this promised one who is going to bring life, and that's who we believe Jesus is. And so I want to ask us, no matter how you're walking into your freshman year with, I want to ask us, do you have those wants? Do you have those needs? But also, do you know who Jesus is? That's why we're here. That is why we exist on the University of Michigan campus. It's because we believe that Jesus is real and he wants to meet each and every one of us. One of the big things that we do in our student group, in our church, is something called life groups. And all of our campus ministry and our life group ministry, all of it revolves around this truth. These life groups are smaller groups that meet throughout the week, usually Tuesdays or Wednesdays, and sometimes they'll hang out on weekends or whatever else. And these are wonderful communities just to get to know people. If you want to get to know different kinds of people, you can definitely check one out and experience and things like that. These groups will do things, yes, like worship and study the Bible and pray and encourage one another, all those things. But it's built on this idea that the most important person for us to encounter is Jesus Christ. That's why these life groups exist, and we would love for you to see if you would like to join us in that as well. So what I want to do, I've talked long enough. We want to introduce this idea of life group for all of you. I don't know where you are, what you're thinking of in terms of student groups and extracurricular activities or whatever else. We hope that you would consider this. But again, we wanted to let you know why it is that we do what we do. And so what we're going to do, I want to show this video that introduces this concept of life groups. And then afterwards, we wanted to ask one of our returning members, Jocelyn, to actually share her own experiences of what life group was, what it meant for her this past year. And so, we'll do that. Let's watch this together. We'll watch it, and then we'll invite Jocelyn up afterwards to share.
Hi, welcome to our church. I'm guessing you've heard about this thing called life group, but if you haven't, that's okay. It's hard to describe, but there are definitely some key ingredients involved that make life group, life group. Let's start with the first letter of life, which stands for love. For this piece, you'll need 2 cups of humility, a 1/3 cup of warm compassion, 2.5 teaspoons of kindness, and to add a kick, 1/4 cup of sacrifice. Keep in mind that you may have an abundance of one ingredient and you may be lacking in others, and that's perfectly fine. The awesome part about this community is that we're able to give and receive and grow together to make the best meal possible. Next is investment. A tangible way that Life Group promotes investment is through these accountability groups called Life Change Groups, or LCGs. We won't go too into detail, so come to a life group and find out more. Other things that go into investments are a bunch of patience, a lot of expectations for God to move, full cup of commitment, and again, 1/4 cup of sacrifice. For faith, we start with action, because faith without action has no sustenance. So make sure you coat that action with a layer of trust. Pour over with a nice helping of boldness. And finally, season it with hope to really bring out the flavor. Next, we're gonna stick faith in the oven. Now we can't see it, but we're sure that it's cooking in there, and we're certain that our faith will multiply. Lastly is enjoyment. Woohoo! And we experience this in our personal relationship with God and as a community with our fellow members. We'll need 2 cups of fellowship, a whole cup of glory, joy, and for some flavor, a pinch of sass. Oh, no, that's too much sass. It's okay. These are a good handful of ingredients that make up Life Group, but there's so much more that you won't quite understand until you experience it yourself. No 2 life groups will ever be the same, and each and every person will bring their own ingredients and portion to the table. But each life group is committed to always having this one ingredient. The most important piece that really ties this whole meal together is the gospel, which says we are redeemed by Jesus Christ, whose sacrifice on the cross empowers us to faithfully love, invest, and enjoy a life with God the Father. Most people have a rule that when you're introduced to a new food, you have to try it at least once. And we want to extend that challenge to you as well. Whether you're a Christian or not, we welcome you to be a part of our community, and we hope to see you soon.
Hi everyone, my name is Jocelyn. I'm a rising sophomore, and I'm going to share a little bit about my experience with Life Group from last year. Coming into college last year as a freshman, the last thing on my mind was joining a church community. Despite growing up in a Christian family, I was feeling really far from God by the end of high school, and I didn't even know if I still considered myself a Christian. Yet somehow I was convinced to join New Encounter last year, and I will never forget that night. Though I had initially gone reluctantly, I was shocked that I actually felt God's presence and felt God pursuing me for the first time and forever that night. As members of this church prayed for me and worshiped together, all of my anxieties about coming into college, fears about classes and making friends, and feelings of loneliness went away. I was reminded of how good God is, and it was then that I decided to sign up for Life Group and learn more about God. As I began to know more people at this church, I also began going to more events, such as the Sunday services, Friday night encounters, and life groups. Yet throughout the first semester, I continued to rely on myself to handle everything that I was going through while struggling to make time for every bit of my life that I had carved into different pieces, whether it was school, academics, friends, church, or more. But as hard as I tried to give each aspect of my life a portion of my time, God didn't have a place in my life. I struggled to find satisfaction in my life, and instead of rooting my worth and identity in Christ, I started seeking validation through academics, friendships, and people, which ultimately left me in despair. The more I tried to control my life, the more it fell apart, and I began comparing myself to everything else I saw around me. Some of the friendships that I had placed all of my self-worth into were falling apart, classes were getting harder, and I felt really lost and confused. In the midst of my struggles, I began drifting away from God. Yet despite pushing God away, He continued to chase after me and pursue a relationship with me. I was reminded of my life group vision that God is faithful in providing and achieving in all aspects of our lives, and that He provides us with each other and for each other. Although in the midst of my struggles I couldn't see this, looking back now I can confidently say that God has always been providing so much for me, especially by the people and relationships that He had placed intentionally into my life. From the first encounter during Welcome Week, God provided for me and replaced my anxieties about making friends as I met other incoming freshmen, some of whom became my closest friends today. And throughout the year, God continued filling my life with relationships and people who pointed and challenged me to be more like Christ. Although last year was full of ups and downs, I can confidently look back and say that God has truly never left me, and that while I was in my lowest moments and furthest away from Him, He never stopped providing for me or pursuing me, because He is so faithful. Throughout last year, I learned so much about God's character, especially His love and His sovereignty. I learned that I can really surrender to God and trust in His provision for my life, because I know that He will provide for me at exactly the right time. But most of all, I learned how important it is to be part of a church community. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that this encourages you to join and check out Life Group this year.
Thank you, Jocelyn, for sharing. And, that's a hope for all of us. We believe in a God that exists, who sent His one and only Son for us to show and demonstrate His love for us by dying on the cross. And these communities are chances to actually share that with one another. That God, as God has loved some of us, that we start sharing that love to the people around us, whether in our life group communities or even outside. These life group communities, they've been vital for me. I would not be here. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for some communities, some people who supported me at my lowest moments. Said, hey, we want to remind you, Josh, of God's love for you. That's what we hope all of you get to experience. And so if you check out other groups, great. There's some wonderful groups on campus. Again, other groups, even some other Christian groups. There's some wonderful things. Take some time to check things out, but we hope that you get to check out Life Group as well. Because this is where, again, those communities are able to share the love of God, the love of Christ with one another. You got to hear from Jocelyn. There's so many other stories here in this room of what it looks like to experience that in community together. So what I want to ask us to do is at this time, I'm going to ask the team to pass out these cards. They'll come down the aisle and give that. If you need a pen as well, if everyone can take a card and a pen, that would be great. But as they're coming down, these are actually going to be life group sign-up cards. If you are here and you're like, hey, whoa, I didn't sign up for any of this, please don't feel any pressure. This is, you all have your cards. You can write, what you want on them. But I want to extend an invitation to you. Actually, I want to acknowledge someone else in the front row, Maisha. Everyone say hi to Maisha. She's one of our staff members on at our church, and she has coined the saying, check out a life group at least twice. The first one might have been an off week, but what we are going to invite all of us to do and to consider is, would you consider checking out these biblical communities. These spaces that we've planned for and organized and all these things, these spaces that are built on the idea that Jesus wants to meet with each and every one of us in our questions of faith, in our high and low moments, and even in helping us explore what it means to live the life of fullness of life. And so if you see on the front side, you can see actually a sign-up card for there. You can fill, if you can fill that out. If you would love to check that out, someone will be in touch with you. They'll actually be getting started, I believe, the week of September 5th, if I'm not, no, I'm wrong. It'll be there. Never mind, it starts next week. Cool. One thing to know about me, if you ever want to hang out, and please, I would love to hang out with as many of you as I can. I have a terrible memory for details, so all that aside, they do start then. If you want to check one out, again, check it out a couple times just to see what they're about, see how we try to live this out, how we try to get to encounter and meet with Christ, both in our smaller gatherings and larger ones like this. On the back, you'll see some optional get to know you questions as well. And if some of us aren't ready to fill out that front side, that's okay. We'd love to get to know, just where you are. Just where are you right now? Are you asking some things? What's your background? How do you identify with who's Jesus to you? We just love to get a pulse of just how you're doing today. And so I just want to give us a few more minutes just to fill that out if you haven't been filling it out already. If you're returning, we do need your signups anyways, and so if you haven't filled out the form already, you can fill that out and we'll get plugged in. We'll get you all plugged in. But if I can ask us just to take a few minutes. Again, this is not a plug to make our student group roster larger. We couldn't care less about how big or small we are. But our heart is, we believe that Jesus is real. We believe that he loves us and wants to meet with each of us. We hope that you get to experience that in life groups as well. So again, just another 2 minutes or so. If you want to take some time to fill that out, maybe even just let us know just where you're coming from today. And then afterwards, we'll close out our time soon after that. I think some of us are finishing up, and so if we all want to stand, and we'll wrap up our time. On the way out, we'll collect the cards. There'll be a little drop-off station, or someone will gather from you at the end. And again, some of us may not be ready, and that's completely okay. What I hope that we take away more than anything else, right? Even actually more than our heart as a ministry or as a church, is that all of us would started to get an inkling. Maybe it's a question even of starting to explore or starting to question. But maybe the question will start lingering for some of us, or maybe we'll get to experience this more and more. Is there a God of the universe, and does he really love me? Jesus himself shows up in this woman's life to communicate with her, to be with her, to talk with her, and to explore these larger questions. And that was enough for her. We trust that if you get to encounter the real and true living Jesus Christ, some amazing things will happen. But can I ask us, just to take a brief moment, we won't spend too long here. There's a lot of fun things planned, I think, afterwards. But can I ask us to just to bow our heads and close our eyes just for a moment, just to pray just where you are, just in your own words, right? If you're here and you're questioning and you have doubts of faith and is God real, maybe you can just lift up a thought in your head. God, if you're real, can you make yourself known to me? If you're really out there, I'd love to get to know you. For others of us, again, whatever season, however we're coming in tonight, can I ask us to say, Jesus, I really want to understand your love for me. I want to believe that you want to meet with me. And that over these next 4 years, however long we have here, that he would meet with you, and that he'd change your life for the better. He's changed mine. So can I ask us just to, again, wherever we are, just to pray that just for a few moments afterwards. We'll sing a little bit, and we'll wrap up our time after that. But can we just pray together just for